You won't believe what Kirk Frost just revealed about Love and Hip Hop. For years, we've watched the heartbreak, betrayal, and shocking twists unfold on screen. But what if I told you that everything you believed to be true about the show was actually a carefully constructed illusion, and that the drama that kept us glued to our screens wasn't entirely real? Kirk Frost has finally spoken up, and what he's revealing will forever alter your perspective on reality TV. Producers have sold us stories of love, betrayal, and redemption, but Kirk claims that everything is a sham behind the scenes. According to reports, emotional outbursts and violent altercations were staged for ratings, but why come forward now and reveal these secrets after all this time? Kirk Frost's revelations aren't just a shock, they're a wake-up call, revealing the machine that transformed his life into a must-watch drama. If you think you know the whole truth about Love and Hip Hop, think again, because what he just revealed will blow the lid off reality television as we know it. It all began too quietly, in fact, while fans were still reeling from the drama of the previous season of Love and Hip Hop, when he started leaving cryptic clues on social media in the form of a series of ambiguous tweets. The entire fan base was holding their breath in those early days as speculation ran wild about whether it was another scandal involving Rashida, a new loved child, or a major feud with a castmate. While everyone on the internet had their theories, no one could have predicted the truth. The shock wasn't that Kirk had gotten himself into trouble again, but rather that this time Kirk claimed he had uncovered something far bigger than himself. Behind the scenes, Kirk was said to be growing more restless by, according to people close to him, he began looking into old contracts, reviewing footage, and speaking with people who had moved on from Love and Hip Hop long ago. What he discovered shocked him to his core. He claimed that everything he saw was carefully staged, including storylines he thought were natural and emotional conversations he thought were real. Kirk was convinced that Love and Hip Hop wasn't just a reality show with some creative editing, but rather a fully developed scripted drama masquerading as real life. At first, Kirk tried to keep these revelations to himself, struggling with his own guilt, wondering if he was partially to blame for not speaking out sooner. After all, he had been a part of the machine. For years, Kirk had accepted the paychecks, played the part, and allowed the show to tell whatever story it wanted about his life. However, as the pieces came together, Kirk started to see himself differently. He was no longer just a participant. He was a pawn, and the manipulation was deep. Kirk recalled one specific incident in which a cast member broke down in tears during a reunion show. At the time, it seemed like an honest, raw moment, but now Kirk knew better. Kirk claimed that other cast members were forced into roles that didn't fit them. Producers fed them lines, encouraged fights, and even made up scandals out of thin air. Discovered that the entire situation had been staged. Producers had fueled the flames backstage during filming, and even reshot key scenes to make them appear more dramatic. Kirk also started to suspect that the show's creators were doing more than just trying to increase ratings. They were playing a much bigger game by tightly controlling the narrative, making it possible for any cast member to be either a hero or a villain, boosting or ruining someone's career with a single edit. For Kirk, this realization was both freeing and terrifying, because he no longer saw himself as the villain that fans had grown to love or hate. Instead, he was just a man caught in a web of manipulation. His determination solidified, and he decided to come clean. However, he wanted to do it correctly. Wasn't going to be a social media tirade or a teeny confession on a podcast. Kirk wanted to gather all the evidence he could, organize his thoughts, and ensure that his words would have the greatest impact possible when he finally spoke. He started gathering everything he could, including leaked emails, old footage, statements from former cast members, and even secret recordings he had made during production. This wasn't just about clearing his name, it was about exposing a system that he felt had exploited him and countless others for years. Kirk's first big move came in the form of a mysterious announcement in a short video posted to his social media channels. He teased an upcoming revelation for years, saying, "You've watched the drama, but what if I told you it was never real? What if I told you the truth about Love and Hip Hop is darker than you ever imagined?" The video ended abruptly, leaving fans scrambling for answers overnight. Kirk was up against a powerful machine that had turned reality TV into a carefully controlled illusion. But as he learned more about the show's inner workings, he realized the risk he was taking. The internet was ablaze, and everyone wanted to know what Kirk Frost was going to reveal. As fans, bloggers, and even mainstream news outlets picked up the story, the speculation reached a fever pitch. The producers of Love and Hip Hop remained silent, probably hoping that Kirk's moment of defiance would end, but Kirk wasn't backing down. In fact, he was just getting started. This is where things took a turn for the worse. According to sources behind the scenes, some allegedly reached out to Kirk, asking him to reconsider his actions, while others attempted to discredit him, spreading rumors that Kirk was simply trying to stay relevant. The stage was set, and Kirk Frost, who had previously been portrayed as the perpetual bad guy of Love and Hip Hop, was now positioned as the whistleblower who would reveal the show's darkest secrets. Kirk had the receipts and was prepared to share them with the world by this point. Kirk was fully committed to his mission and knew that speaking out could end his career in television, lead to legal battles, financial difficulties, and a lifetime of being blacklisted by the industry. But Kirk didn't care because he felt that the truth was more important than anything else. Would eventually come clean, and when he did, the fallout would be more explosive than anyone could have predicted. When Kirk Frost went public, it was like opening a Pandora's box. His initial posts and cryptic statements were only the beginning. He soon shared snippets of his evidence, audio clips, emails, and even old contracts, and the details he revealed painted a picture far more scandalous than fans could have ever imagined. One of the first bombshells he dropped was about the famous hotel fight from a few seasons ago, in which Kirk and Rashida's tension reached an all-time high and ended in a heated altercation in a lavish suite. Ate up taking sides and arguing endlessly on social media, but Kirk now disclosed that the entire scene was meticulously planned. The producers had spent hours coaching Kirk and Rashida on what to say, and the physical setting, the so-called hotel suite was actually a set designed to look like one, was phony. The argument seemed so emotional and raw that it was practiced several times before the cameras ever rolled. Kirk also claimed that some cast members weren't even friends or enemies prior to the show. The producers, he claimed, had purposefully paired people together and fed them lines to create the appearance of depth. Kirk claimed that the financial drama, fights over money, allegations of unpaid child support, and accusations of secret bank accounts were also staged. He shared documents that purportedly demonstrated that some of the evidence shown on the show was either heavily edited or outright fabricated. Personal conflict. Cast members who had never met before were forced to act as though they had decades of history complete with betrayals, alliances, and grudges. This web of manufactured relationships turned the show into a carefully controlled drama machine where every scene was designed to elicit maximum outrage. Social media exploded with hashtags like #KirkFrostExposed, and Love and Hip Hop wise viewers started rewatching old episodes, scrutinizing every argument, tearful confession, and dramatic walkout. Suddenly, moments that had seemed genuine felt suspiciously contrived, and memes spread like wildfire, leaving Kirk at the center of a storm he could hardly control. Kirk claimed that the bank statements that flashed on screen during episodes were doctored to make the numbers more scandalous, and when cast members confronted one another over money, it was frequently prompted by producers who handed them talking points just before filming. Supporters praised his bravery for speaking the truth, while others accused him of lying to protect his own reputation. Meanwhile, Kirk's revelations began to focus attention on other cast members, who hadn't been asked to do so. Former show stars who had long since moved on were suddenly drawn back into the drama, and some reluctantly acknowledged that Kirk wasn't lying. One former cast member, speaking anonymously, acknowledged that they had been pressured by producers to pretend to be dating another co-star, telling them to act as though they were dating. Although we had hardly spoken before, I initially assumed it was harmless. But as more people came forward, the storyline shifted from Kirk's personal complaints to a more comprehensive exposé of the show's production methods. Producers were accused of using coercion and manipulation to control not only the cast, but also the storylines. Former crew members started sharing their stories about how they were told to keep filming until they captured something explosive or to edit certain scenes to create tension. One editor even described how they were once handed raw footage and told to make it look. Kirk also pointed out how producers took advantage of the cast's weaknesses, accusing them of targeting those who were struggling financially or emotionally, knowing that they would be more willing to comply with outrageous demands. Kirk himself acknowledged that early in his Love and Hip Hop journey, he He was eager to build a platform and bring in a steady paycheck. But as the years went by, he realized that the price of fame on the show was higher than he ever imagined. He said that they don't just want you to be yourself. Be a character that they have control over, and that control went beyond the set. Kirk disclosed how the production team kept an eye on and occasionally managed the cast members' social media accounts, curating posts to fit the show's plot. If a cast member shared anything that didn't fit the current plot, they were pressured to remove it. Kirk even implied that some of the scandals that surfaced online during the season were staged by the show's public relations team to create buzz by creating fake leaks. Kirk claimed that they wanted the audience to believe they were experiencing the real drama, but it was all part of the plan as more. Although Love and Hip Hop producers remained silent, the industry began to take notice of Kirk's revelations. Entertainment blogs, celebrity gossip sites, and even mainstream news outlets covered it. The network issued a vague statement stating that they stand by the integrity of their programming, but fans weren't buying it. The outrage spread beyond Kirk's personal story, with many wondering how many of their favorite moments were actually fabricated. Despite this, Kirk remained defiant and continued to speak, despite what he described as veiled threats from industry insiders. Kirk acknowledged in one of his videos that he knew he would be blacklisted and that he was tired of living a lie. He said, "I'd rather tell the truth and face the consequences than keep pretending." And the consequences were already beginning to pile up. His appearances on other reality shows were abruptly canceled. Longtime industry friends stopped returning his calls, and there were rumors that the network was considering legal action. However, Kirk's biggest supporters, his fans, and a few former cast members encouraged him to keep going, saying, "Don't let them silence you." The stakes had never been higher for Kirk as the next scandal took center stage. He hinted at even bigger revelations to come, saying he had evidence that could entirely change the way we think about reality TV. As the weeks passed, his audience grew. His social media posts received thousands of likes and shares, and his videos were viewed by millions. However, the question remained, how far would Kirk go? What would be the ultimate fallout? And would his revelations lead to real change? Or would they simply fade away? Regardless of his victory or defeat, it was evident that the world of love and hip-hop would never be the same again when Kirk Frost's revelations about love and hip-hop started to spread throughout the entertainment industry. Fans, critics, and even industry insiders couldn't ignore the overwhelming amount of evidence he had presented by this point. The story wasn't just spreading on social media. Mainstream outlets were also taking up the story, delving deeper into Kirk's claims, airing new segments that exposed the dark side of reality TV, and discussing whether or not shows like Love and Hip Hop had gone too far in their quest for viewers. Supporters and viewers who applauded him for finally speaking up and revealing the truth also faced an industry that seemed to be closing in on him almost immediately. His calls to former co-workers went unanswered. His appearances on other shows were abruptly canceled, and longtime friends in the industry quietly withdrew. The message was clear. Kirk was no longer welcome in the reality TV world, and that in and of itself was another scandal. Nevertheless, Kirk refused to back down in interviews and online posts, vividly describing what it was like to work under the constant pressure of producers who controlled every aspect of his on-screen life. Talked about the toll it took on his family, relationships, and even his mental health over the years. The producers had made him into a caricature of the unfaithful husband, the eternal villain. And although Kirk admitted his mistakes, he claimed that they had exaggerated his flaws and created scenarios that made him appear much worse than he actually was. One of the more unexpected turns of events occurred when other cast members, both current and former, started to speak out in support of Kirk's claims. While some stayed faithful to the franchise, others came forward to support Kirk's claims. One former cast member disclosed that she had been told to start fights with another star on the network, of course, remained silent, making only evasive statements about their commitment to producing high-quality entertainment. But insiders started whispering that executives were holding emergency meetings to discuss damage control, because advertisers were anxious about being associated with a show under such heavy scrutiny. Another cast member revealed that his alleged affair was nothing more than a made-up plot, and he said, "I never hated her. I didn't even know her." The producers told him to say these things so we'd have a reason to fight on camera. The entertainment industry appeared determined to erase Kirk. But despite all the chaos and backlash, he found an unexpected source of strength in his audience. Many fans saw him as a whistleblower who dared to reveal the truth at great personal risk online, and they rallied behind him, flooding his social media with messages of encouragement. Hashtags like #EachGearTeamKirk and #EachGearExpose reality TV trended for weeks, and independent media outlets started sharing Kirk's evidence to ensure it couldn't be easily buried, even after criticism began to pull their sponsorships. In a rare joint interview, Rashida, whose relationship with Kirk had long been at the center of the show's drama, came forward in a surprising way. For years, her public image had been entangled with the chaos of their on-screen relationship, but now she openly spoke about the manipulation they both experienced. Kirk and Rashida sat side by side and described how producers would set them against each other, fabricate cheating scandals, and twist their real-life struggles into exaggerated storylines. Rashida acknowledged that there were times when she honestly believed Kirk was acting behind her back, but it turned out that everything was part of the script they gave us. Fuel fake drama. The revelation that Rashida was also a victim of the system struck a deep chord with fans who had long criticized her for sticking with Kirk through numerous scandals. Many started to view her as another pawn in a game much larger than her marriage together, rather than as someone complicit in the chaos. Kirk and Rashida's united front gave credibility to his claims and changed the narrative from Kirk's just making excuses to the possibility that there might be a serious problem with the way these shows operate. As the weeks turned into months, the scandal showed no signs of slowing down. Kirk continued to release more evidence, and fans continued to analyze every revelation. Blog, podcast, and discussions about Love and Hip Hop's purported manipulations took over reality TV gossip YouTube channels. The producers, who were once commended for their ability to create compelling plots, were now portrayed as cruel manipulators who were prepared to jeopardize the reputations of their cast members in order to increase ratings. The discussion expanded beyond love and hip-hop, igniting discussions about reality TV ethics in general. Kirk, who was banned, found ways to keep his voice alive by starting his platform, a YouTube channel, where he discussed not only his personal experiences but also the larger problems ailing the entertainment industry. In one viral video, he explained the workings of. At the same time, Kirk started working with advocacy groups that pushed for better protections for reality TV participants. He lobbied for new rules that would prevent producers from forcing cast members into humiliating situations or signing exploitative contracts. Kirk used his newly discovered platform not only to air his grievances, but also to try and create lasting change in an industry that for too long has permitted producers to guide cast members towards certain behaviors, edit footage to distort timelines, and even seed rumors to build tension. The video received millions of views and sparked widespread calls for greater transparency in reality TV. Had worked in the background, but not everyone supported Kirk. Some former cast members accused him of being hypocritical, pointing out that he had profited from the same system he was now criticizing. Others questioned his motivations, speculating that his candid campaign was just another way for him to stay in the spotlight. Despite these criticisms, Kirk seemed determined to weather the storm, claiming that his goal was never personal gain, but rather about bringing attention to the negative aspects of reality TV and ensuring that future participants wouldn't have to go through what he and Rashida had.